Alright guys, I've been riding this 2022 Indian Scout Rogue around for about a month, so today we're going to talk about the 1 month review of this thing. Indian has let us loan this motorcycle for a little while. I've been daily riding it, and you guys know I'm not typically a cruiser guy, but this has been my daily riding for the last about 30 days. So today, we're going to do the 1 month review. What we do in these 1 month review, guys, I want to give you guys more of an owner review. If you guys want to know all the specs and stuff like that, you guys can go check out our first ride video. That's what that video is for. This video is for all the tiny little things that I noticed on this motorcycle that I either liked or didn't like during the period of time where I'm riding it every single day. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So hopefully you guys are excited. If you are, let's get going. So guys, before we get going, let's talk about the looks real quick, because the looks have been something that have really grown on me. Other than the one thing, these chromed exhaust pipes, or the shields that are around them, I don't know why we have chrome ones, because some of the ones I see online, those are blacked out. If they were blacked out, I am totally here for the looks on this bike. When I first saw it, I wasn't really sold on it, but after riding it every day, I'm really here for the blacked out look. You guys know I'm here for that. I think Indian makes some of the best looking actual engines, so I love that that's kind of prominent there on the side. And I kind of like the simplicity of the look of the bike. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, overall, I think Indian did a phenomenal job designing this bike. But yeah, guys, let's jump on this bike and let's get going. I just want to talk about the looks real quick, because obviously I'm off of the motorcycle and I can do that. Another thing I absolutely love about this bike is the little key here on the side. It's pretty freaking great. So before we get going, what I can actually do right now is talk to you guys about the seat. So as you guys can kind of see, we have a very low seat height on this motorcycle, and for a lot of you guys that are maybe a little shorter, this would be a phenomenal bike. As you guys can see, I'm 5'10", I got a super bent legs, and the bike is really easy to control being this low to the ground. But I will say, as a 5'10" guy myself, I have found the seat to be a little too short. Now, one of the main reasons of that is I'm so close to the ground that my legs are all bent up, and I end up having to do this weird waddle thing with this motorcycle. And just to kind of give you guys a history, if you're maybe new to the channel, most of the time, the types of bikes I'm riding are bikes like naked bikes or super sports or adventure bikes. I'm not really on cruisers that much. So some of the things I'm going to bring up are going to be like pretty normal for cruisers. So if you hear me say something, then you're like, you know, well, Chase, no shit, you know, that's the thing. You're on a cruiser bike, just know, oh, the water. We don't like water when it's 30 something degrees outside. Just keep that in mind. That dog was not here for the riding gear. Oh, we're gonna get together, that's awesome. Gotta be careful not to scrape or slide out. Alright, we got a lot of things to work through on today's video. So yeah, guys, I'm not a huge fan of how low the seat is. I don't like that kind of waddling thing that I have to do when I'm moving the bike around under you know, my power and the bike's not on. Another thing that being really low to the ground does is I've noticed that I do scrape the bike, the pegs, relatively quickly. Now, I will say at speed, this hasn't really been that much of a problem. Granted, I haven't taken this bike to the North Georgia mountains or anything like that. The problem has mostly been in slow speed stuff. You know, think of something like parking lots or turning into places. I tend to like throw the bike over, and I got very comfortable with the bike because it is very light, which kind of just makes me feel like I can throw it around. And that's been a positive, but it's also made me scrape the bike a lot. And you know, being on a cruiser, I'm not the most comfortable just because I'm not used to riding like that. But I just do find myself scraping a little easy, like right there, just even that. So the ground clearance isn't really great. And one of the things that does is it messes with my my confidence on the bike, so I don't feel like I can really throw it over. And that sucks, because I do enjoy, one of the things I enjoy a lot with this bike actually is it's a cruiser, but it's got a lot of power and it's lightweight, which for me, a more sporty rider, I'm here for that. I get to have a really good time and throw the bike over. So when I get to going slower speeds, I kind of like my modi sense kind of peaks, and I'm like, oh snap, be careful, don't be scraping the peg. So that's been the thing that kind of, I won't say it spoils the bike for me, but it takes away some of the enjoyment I could have. So next up, let's talk about the tech on the bike, or specifically for this bike, the lack of tech. You guys know that this is one of the few bikes right now that you can actually get without ABS, which is kind of crazy. And if you do get ABS, that's basically the only tech this bike has. I think it's very intentional that Indian did that. They want it to be a very, visceral motorcycle experience. It's literally you and the motorcycle, and that's what it's here for. Now, if you guys are fans of the channel, y'all know I love tech in bikes. I think it's cool as hell. I understand why it's there, and some bikes don't have tech, and I understand why. Do I miss having tech on this bike? Sometimes. Now, today is actually a great day to talk about that. The tech I would really like to have is traction control. That's the only thing I'm really missing. Well, that and ABS. We have ABS on this model, but I'm saying if you don't have the ABS model, I do wish I had traction control. And the reason for that is situations like this. It's 30-something degrees outside, and it was raining yesterday. So on my ride into work this morning, there's been a couple times where I hit a little ice patch on the road, and that obviously, as you can imagine, that really upsets the motorcycle. So I do wish I had tech, but this is a rare circumstance. It's winter time, right? A lot of guys and girls are not going to be riding in wintertime, and if you're not going to be doing that, like when we got this motorcycle, the weather wasn't bad. And when the weather wasn't bad, I didn't really miss having any tech at all. As you guys can see, the tack is very analog. Like, everything feels kind of old school, and I'm totally here for that. So I don't miss it when the weather's good, but it's when the weather's bad that I'm like, it would be nice. It would be nice to have some tech on the motorcycle just to keep me a little more safe. But overall, I don't really miss it. I think Indian has done a phenomenal job with this bike, making it a very, kind of just you and the motorcycle feel. So props to them for that. So guys, this road being a little bumpier reminds me of the next thing I wanted to talk about, and that's the suspension. Now, this is one of those situations where I'm not a big cruiser guy. I don't spend a ton of time on cruisers, so take this with a grain of salt. Or a whole spoonful. The suspension on this bike, I feel like it needs so much more travel. I have hit a couple bumps on my riding around on this bike, and bro, I thought I had lost a vertebra out my back. These aren't super big potholes. These are just regular road imperfections, and I hit them at the wrong time, going at wrong speed. Most of the time it's been I'm slightly accelerating, so my weight is being pushed back, and when I do that and I hit those bumps, the suspension does not have a lot of travel before it bottoms out, and then you just get this shock through your spine. And I don't have a good back, so that kind of stuff is extremely painful for me. Now, I will say it's not that much worse than my Harley Davidson Sportster S. Both of those suspensions are just not long enough to handle some of these shitty roads we have. I don't know what roads look like where you guys are, but if suspension comfort is a big deal, just keep that in mind. I don't think it's anything to not buy the bike about. I think it's just something that was particularly troublesome for me because of, like I said, having a bad back. So I am a little more sensitive to issues like that. That would probably be one of the main negatives for me personally of this bike, is the suspension just not having enough travel. I don't know what you do about that. You know, I don't even know what I would tell Indians, like, hey, you need to improve this. So one of the next things we can talk about is the steering on this bike. And this is, again, one of those situations, like kind of like the scraping. At speed, the steering is fine. I've got no problem with the steering on this bike. But when it comes to going really slow, either moving around a parking lot or, you know, moving the bike around under my own weight in my garage or something like that, the distance between the front and the rear wheel being so long and the bike being relatively heavy when it's not moving, it does make it a little challenging to move around. Again, keep in mind where I'm coming from. I'm used to naked bikes and stuff like that that are much lighter comparatively. So that's been a little challenging. It's not, like, I would say, like, issue-wise, it's like a 4 out of 10. It's not a huge deal. It's just something that I'm not used to. So if you own this motorcycle, I feel like you'd probably get used to that relatively quickly. While we're going down the road, I have to talk about these mirrors. I really hate them. I hate them so much. They get in the way of everything. They work well because my arms are up high and the mirror shoots underneath my arm. So, like, usability wise, it's great. But one of the problems is these things move so easily and then they won't go back into place. It is so frustrating. And I also find myself hitting them all the time and ruining the position. So it's almost like every time I get on this bike, I'm having to readjust these damn mirrors, and it drives me nuts. And now, right now, I've moved them so I can't see to the side, and now I can. So not only do I have to adjust them every time I go ride, I also have to adjust them while I'm riding. It's like, I don't want to mess with mirrors that much, man. So it goes without saying, I'm not upset about the power on the Indian Scout Rogue. So guys, a couple more things that have kind of come to my mind while I've been riding this bike around is, one is the body position. The body position on this bike, as you guys can see, we've got kind of the forward controls here. Typically, I'm a mids guy. I like mid controls, but the combination of the seat that this bike has with the controls, I really like the body position it puts my lower half in. Granted, it does put me at a disadvantage for the, like, I push myself into the rear seat, which makes it to where if I'm doing that and the suspension gets bottomed out, that's what sends that shock up my back. But as far as regular riding, I really enjoy this body position. And on top of that, it's not just the lower half. I don't typically like the look of apes, like the higher handlebars, but I think Indian absolutely nailed the position of these handlebars. I love where my arms sit. I love where that makes me sit. And I just really enjoy the ride on this bike. I love the amount of power it has. This is the larger engine version, and I would highly recommend that. If this thing had less power, I would feel like I'd be wanting for power. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the body position more than I expected to, actually. I kind of dig the vibe on cruisers, and I really enjoy the feeling I get on this bike, which has been really surprising. I'm getting used to the whole cruiser side of things. All right, guys. So final thing I want to talk about, and I talked about this a lot on the first ride as well, but the seat on this Indian Scout Rogue is great. It's probably one of my favorite cruiser seats right now. I've put a decent amount of miles on this bike, and I've really enjoyed the seat. I think it does a phenomenal job, like caps lock, phenomenal job holding you, the rider, where you need to be. One of the issues I have with my Sportster S is, like, that seat's really tiny and the bike's really powerful, and I just don't feel that security of the seat holding me in place. So I really appreciate the seat on the Scout Rogue having that kind of really upward angle. I think it's phenomenal. I think they did a great job. But guys, I think that's about all of the things that really came to mind while I've been riding this bike around for the last month. I've honestly really enjoyed it, and it surprised me that I didn't mind not having tech in a bike. That's pretty rare these days, but it's kind of been interesting. I don't have a problem with it at all. I definitely look at this motorcycle as a fair weather bike. This is not a bike I want to grab when it's nasty and raining outside, but if it's nice weather and I'm not looking to go out and really just like ride like a hooligan, I kind of love this bike for that. Like, it's a cruiser and it's great at cruising. I wouldn't want to cruise in bad weather in it, but other than that, I've been super happy with this thing, and I think it's one of like the perfect sized cruisers as far as it's not crazy big, and it's small enough to have a good time on, which is a very important thing for me. I've really enjoyed it. I'm going to be sad to send it back to Indian, but overall I think, especially if you're a cruiser guy, I honestly feel like a lot of my issues with this bike is just because like I don't typically ride cruisers. So I feel like if you guys were kind of used to this style of motorcycle, you'd probably enjoy it a lot more. But alright guys, that's it. I'm Chaseontwowheels. If you guys want more motorcycle content, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We make a ton of it here. And you guys go out there and ride safe. I'll see you on the next one. Later. Outdoor crew, thank you for getting to the end of the video. Make sure to put OC in your comment down below and like the video. And let me know in the comments, guys, are y'all guys for tech, or do you not care about that at all? The market seems to be kind of split. Half of us like tech. The other half are like, I don't want anything intervening with my ride. It's a pretty interesting conversation. Would love to hear your comments down below. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Later.